I think we can start slowly. Okay, nice seeing you today as well. Welcome to people that they haven't joined us yesterday. I think all of you, like a couple of you, are have joined us today. So, because we want to keep the timeline of the presentations, so we have Alfredo De Mansis, Professor of Entrepreneurship and Family Business at Gabriele D'Annunzio University and an IMD Business School, Switzerland, joining us online. As we said, unfortunately, Alfredo didn't manage to make it to be here with us today, So we're lucky to have him, joining us and presenting online. Alfredo will deliver a presentation on entrepreneurial families and transgenerational prosperity, broadening our view in research and practice. After Alfredo's presentation, Alan will join on a presentation on entrepreneurial stories and families in business. And then we can open it up for a discussion of around 15-20 minutes, questions that you may have, and so to make more fruitful the whole experience. So Alfredo, the floor is yours. If you can share your presentation.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Elias. Thanks everyone. Thanks also to Michael and Andrea for the kind invitation. And greetings, not from the sunny Cyprus as I had hoped, but from the equally glamorous confines of my laptop screen. I was actually hoping to be there, but unfortunately my flight had issues. And therefore, like in a family business, we try to be resilient and to adapt. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I will start by sharing my screen so that you can see, my presentation, and hopefully you tell me if you see it. That should be. Do you see it?
Not yet.
Okay. How about now?
Maybe if you send, no.
No?
No, we don't see it.
Interesting. Let me see. Let me try it again.
Or maybe
I should have the permission.
Okay,
yeah.
yes.
You see it? Okay.
Yes.
Good. Okay, so it's a pleasure to be here. As you said, I'm a professor at the Danuzzi University in Italy. I'm the business school in Switzerland and Lancaster University Management School in the UK. And by the way, I'm also very happy that there is there Alan Discock-Roots, who is the director of the Lancaster University Center for Family Business, because I'm sure he will be also sharing something very interesting. So, today what I prepared for my speech is something based on my research and also my activity in practice, which is related to how the world is changing and how, actually we can understand better the way in which entrepreneurial families achieve transgenerational prosperity. And by the way, when I say prosperity, I'm pointing to something that is bigger than just economic and financial success, which is, of course, vital for any family business, but I'm, pointing to something that goes beyond that. So, first of all, a bit of information about our playground. We are in a very particular context right now because the world has been changing, because we know that, we all as human beings have been navigating across a number of different challenges and crises. We had the pandemic first, then we had the energy price crisis, then we had a lot of geopolitical, tensions, some wars and things like this. And so what my research actually illustrates is that, in this new world, it becomes more and more important for family businesses to evolve their entrepreneurial model. And this also means, if we translate this into a research arena, this also means that it becomes more and more important to also broaden our view and probably also challenge some of the assumptions that are currently at the foundations of the family business field, because they don't hold anymore. So let me elaborate a little bit on that. Well, first of all, what I argue, together with some other colleagues, is that this evolution of the world is linked to an evolution of the family capitalist model. What I'm saying is that if up to maybe a few years ago it was okay to think about the family entrepreneur as someone who had to be very good at managing a family business, operational businesses. Now it becomes more and more important, actually, for a successful family entrepreneur to be able to balance at the same time the corporate soul, which points to the firms, which is the one that is dedicated to, manage and govern in the best possible way the operational businesses, with the patrimonial soul, which is instead dedicated toward the generation of transgenerational value, toward the preservation of the estate, of the patrimony of the family, and also to make sure that this patrimony is not destroyed and hopefully is, increases instead over time. And so, it becomes more and more important for a family entrepreneur to be able to become ambidextrous, right? Because they need to, at the same time, be very good in managing the firm and very good in managing the patrimony and the wealth, both financial and commercial wealth that arises from all the activities that the family undertakes. And, we know that the family business field has been probably, I wouldn't say dominated, but at least there was a very important framework that was very influential and very important for our field, which is the three-circle model developed and introduced by Tagore David in 1982, which was very useful, is still very useful to understand the complexity of the businesses when you have a family involved in it. But what my point, and the point that I, raised together with some other colleagues, make is that, this model, this framework, is not really capable of understanding how entrepreneurial families create prosperities. Because it's very good if you only look at the business, but these days, prosperity is not created by families through operational business. It's a little bit broader. And many of the things that I'm telling you are based on my forthcoming book, where we actually, together with Emanuela Rondi, I advise. So let me explain a little bit the idea behind it, and then let's discuss some implications for research of it. Well, first of all, if it's reasonable to expect that when an entrepreneurial family starts its own entrepreneurial journey, they will start by establishing a family firm one. It's reasonable that at some point, as they develop, they might create a second family firm. At some point, they might introduce a family holding and structure themselves as a group. In a third stage, they might decide, for instance, to take care of their wealth in a more professional way by setting up a family office, and or by taking care of their, human capital by setting up a family academy. In the further stage of development, the family might decide to create a family foundation to advance the family philanthropy agenda, a family museum, a family trust company, a family real estate company to take care of all the belongings in terms of real estate, or a family incubator, as many families, for instance, in Europe are doing these days to foster and stimulate entrepreneurship. What I'm saying is that, if you look with an evolutionary perspective at the entrepreneurial journey of a family, you will easily understand that these families typically, during this journey, start establishing a number of different organizations beyond the operational business. A number of different organizations that are the planets that you see reported here in this galaxy, that are needed by these families to administer a number of tangible and intangible assets. So assets are, of course, physical things like financial wealth, but are also intangible things like the heritage of the family. And you live in a country where, in a region where, there is a lot of tradition of heritage. And for instance, my research showed that this is vitally important to be handled in a strategic way. But also, assets like, the culture of a family and things like this. And what basically Emanuela Rondi and I in our new book argue is that it's very important, this galaxy perspective, because actually much of the prosperity created by a family is not arising that much from the operational businesses, but it arises more from this, holistic view of the whole galaxy. And there are two important centripetal forces that keep together the different planets in this galaxy, that are the family willingness. The family willingness is something which is related to the love that ties together family members. So the family willingness is related to things like, the intention to hand over the firm to the next generation of family members. The motivation, the goals of family members to do something for their family that goes beyond, just the achievement of economic and financial return. But the willingness per se is not enough. You also need the family ability. The family ability is related instead to the ability as discretion of family members to influence the vision of the different planets of this galaxy. So it's very important that family members are really, capable, have the power to influence the vision of this planet in order to exercise their influence and therefore to, pursue their willing. And so if you, agree on this broadened view, you will also easily agree that this somehow leads us to think differently about the number of issues that families in business face, and also about the number of issues that we as family business scholars face when we try to advance knowledge about family. Change, brings a new way of seeing things. And of course, like any galaxy, the galaxy of a family, of an entrepreneurial family, is characterized by some dimensions. So, the mass is one dimension, right? The mass refers to the current and potential resources that the family has within the galaxy. So how to acquire these resources from outside the galaxy, how to grow these resources. Think about resources like the tradition of a family, like, the level of culture that is needed by family members, but also, of course, financial and physical resources. How to coordinate the resources across the different planets becomes important challenge. Another dimension is the shape. The shape refers to the number, size, and dispositions of the organizations in the galaxy, right? Some of these organizations are closer to the family, others are more distant. And it's a strategic decision of the family, how to design its own galaxy. Another one is the luminosity. The luminosity refers to the contribution to value creation of each galaxy organization in terms of financial and or socio-emotional wealth. We have to consider that not all of the planets will be profit centers for the family, will be contributing to the financial wealth. Some of them might be contributing to other types of wealth, like socio-emotional wealth. For instance, I've been interviewing a number of families who are setting up their own family office these days, and many of them told me, Professor, we are actually losing money with that, so it's not creating profits, but it's very important because the family office allows, gives us a locus where we can take care of the social-emotional wealth issues of our families or issues related to succession or whatever. Then another dimension is the regeneration rate, which is the speed at which the family creates new organizations, reorganizes old ones, and also the speed at which it propagates new family members who can, stimulate the power of the galaxy. Of course, families evolve across generations, typically faster than businesses. As the family evolves, propagating new families, germinating new families, and as the business evolves, family members have also to think about how to regenerate their galaxy. And finally, the last dimension is the distance from the center, which refers to the closeness that the family has to each organization and to the level and nature of family's involvement in each organization. Because, of course, different organizations can be governed by the family in a different way. Some of them might be, relying on a low level of family involvement. For others, the family might be more willing to be more strongly involved in the governance, etc., etc. So what I'm saying is that, this galaxy perspective brings to an entrepreneurial family the possibility or the opportunity to really design its own galaxy by looking at these 5 different dimensions. And what we say in our book, by providing some examples, is that typically there are some family members within entrepreneurial families that play a role that we call the role of family creators. So family creators are those family members that should serve as architects of this galaxy, who are able of envisioning how the galaxy should shape, and are those who make often tough decisions, like the decision, for instance, to drop one of the planets from the galaxy, or to add to the galaxy a new planet, or to change the morphology of the galaxy based on the 5 dimensions below. But this is a vital kind of role, which, if you don't want, it's not so much operational, but it's very important because, basically our own book is how to master this galaxy, to transform your family business into a dynasty that lasts across generations. Of course, the galaxy comes with some challenge. And that will be quick, but challenge in terms of governance, for instance, because of course you need to ensure a coordination in terms of goals, governance, and resources between the different planets. And we provide some evidence of the difficulties behind it, but also some guidelines that allows the family to ensure this kind of coordination. The galaxy is endowed also with, again, in terms of governance, it becomes very important to really reason around the key aspects of the governance of the family, of the governance of the family firm, and then it becomes also very important to design the interface between these two types of governance. And as you can see in these slides, in the lower part, in the bottom of the slide, you have, the traditional hierarchy, right, where you have employees, top management team, and CEO. Here you have the additional complexity in entrepreneurial family, where you have, a family firm governance, then you have a holding company governance, then you have a ownership governance, and then you have a family governance on top of all of this. So what I'm trying to say is that you, as a family, decide to establish your own galaxy. And by the way, the galaxy is something that also very small family firms, very families handling very small businesses can decide to establish. You have also to start changing your culture and reasoning around these different layers or levels of coordination and control, each of which is associated to specific outcomes. And just to give you, of course, there is no general rule, but it becomes very, very important for families, to start thinking, okay, how can we separate the ownership governance from the family governance? How can we separate the ownership governance from the holding company governance or from the wealth governance once a family accumulates a certain type of wealth? So, there are challenges, but again, it's a perspective that also allows you to think with a very ambitious attitude about how you can perpetuate your dynasty across generations. And now I would like to share, some challenges and dilemmas with this change of perspective. And I will do so very quickly, but touching upon basically four main areas. The first area is the area of patrimony administration. What does it mean? It means that, in the family business field, we have always, I believe, been driven as scholars by the assumption that somehow the patrimony is given for granted. And we as family business scholars have been very busy with providing new knowledge that could help families to better manage their organization and or to better govern this organization. So management and governance perspectives have dominated the field, and family capital instead indeed has been considered as a form of patient capital. Today, what happens is that more and more when I speak with entrepreneurs, with families, I capture that they are very worried actually about their assets. They are very worried about liquidity issues. They are very worried about their patrimony. So what I'm saying is that today, the economic downturn, the geopolitical tension, the cash challenge, new types of risks have increased the importance, the salience of asset and liquidity issues for families in business. Plus, there are flows among the different galaxy organizations, flows of resources. And so, today I think that we as family business scholars cannot be giving anymore for granted the patrimony of a family. And I believe that even in the management field, we are in strong need of new knowledge that can help this family to manage in the best possible way the wealth, the patrimony that they have. So what are some examples of pressing questions for research? So for instance, one question is, how do theories and tools that we currently use to predict family behavior change when the administration of a family is stated and wealth is taken into account? Another one is how, when we embrace this patrimonial perspective, how to develop the next generation of responsible owner in the entrepreneurial family galaxy. How can families best administer their assets in the current business environment? Are there new challenges associated with the current world where I told you there is this ambidextrous entrepreneurial model that change the way entrepreneurial families take care of their wealth? For instance, if you speak with practitioners, very often they bring up buzzwords like impact investing or family philanthropy or things like this. Why do families in business increasingly rely on family offices to manage their assets and to deal with non-financial aspects such as philanthropy? Why should the family at some point start thinking about setting up a family office? It happened to me to interact with a number of even small families. They start thinking maybe we should start setting up a structure like a family office to take care of our wealth. How should family offices be created in this new world? How can all the different Galaxy organizations aim to take care of the wealth of the family should be leveraged in their heterogeneity, right? We don't know, for instance, how, with an ecosystem perspective, a family might leverage the operational businesses, the family foundation, the family offices, the family museum, the family trust, the family incubator, the family academy. We know that there are these different organizations. We know that these organizations have different characteristics, but actually, to my best knowledge, there is not rigorous research on, how a family can play this ecosystemic game, right, by using these. Also, another very legitimate question is, in the family business literature, many scholars, including myself, have been arguing that, family firms are long-term oriented. But the very legitimate question is now, is the long-term orientation of their businesses still a priority for entrepreneurial families? Are there financial benefits associated with the portfolio of business and assets that change over time? Maybe with the Galaxy perspective, the long-term orientation of the single business is not anymore an issue, and it's more the issue becomes more, how to ensure long-term life for the whole galaxy that can change in its shape and morphology. So these are some examples of important questions that I think would be very worth. Literature has been characterized by a number of assumptions. For instance, we have been assuming that succession is a long process and needs to be methodically planned, but now we know that in this new world, actually, many successions will be happening in a very unexpected way, a very sudden way. Many of them, some estimates say more than 90% will be happening for natural reasons, because actually, we have baby boomers have not been so good at planning succession. And now, we will be facing a massive transition from the baby boomers to the next generation of millennials. And of course, here again, the Galaxy offers some challenge, but also solutions, because first of all, in the Galaxy, there is more space for family members, more space for reflections and reasoning around where each family member can find the ideal fit between his or her own competencies and willingness and, what is needed across generations. And again, there are some pressing questions. So one question is, how can the Galaxy perspective be an opportunity for succession of the senior now and next generation owners? I've been working on some, advisory or applied research project with some families that were really having strong issues around succession, because there were many potential successors and they were fighting against each other. And then when they came up to reason around the Galaxy, they started seeing the different possible solutions. And also, again, another question is, how can organizations like the Family Academy or the Family Talent Garden or the family, these kind of organizations like Family Academies, Family Incubators, and their effect on succession? How do entrepreneurial families decide which, do families change the morphology of their Galaxy in order to accommodate succession? If yes, how? How does an unplanned succession unfold in entrepreneurial families at the Galaxy level? What different capabilities are needed to manage succession in different Galaxy organizations? What differs between a planned and an unplanned succession? Now with the succession clauses happen. A number of questions, and the last one is also, is family creatorship perhaps a new type of family involvement, besides family management, besides family governance, besides family ownership? I would really love to see more research on these questions. And of course, in the book we also talk about some tensions that in the galaxy, somehow characterize the strive, the fight for transgenerational prosperity. We don't have time to go through these, but the tension, for instance, between tradition and innovation, the tension between transparency and secrecy, between equity and equality, right? On the one hand, you would like to split everything equally among your next generation members. On the other hand, you know that equity is different, and you need to do stuff that actually, you need to consider that family members differ in their competencies, differ in their commitment, differ in their efforts they put in the family business and in the galaxy, and so you cannot prioritize equality at any cost. The tension between roots and weeds and so forth. Terms, and we know that emotional wealth basically is so important because in family businesses we have family-centered and non-economic goals. Now what happens is that in the galaxy, however, not all the organizations attach the same importance to social-emotional wealth. So some organizations might be more oriented towards, financial wealth. Others may attach more importance to social-emotional wealth instead. And so again, we have a number of pressing questions that I can briefly illustrate, but of course this presentation will be shared with you after my speech. So questions are like, what changed when social-emotional wealth is considered at the galaxy level? So social-emotional wealth so far has been theorized by family business scholars mainly as something at the family level or at the family business level. Now at the galaxy level, what changed? How does social-emotional wealth in the galaxy shape the decisions of the entrepreneurial family? Are the five of the two dimensions of equal value in this new world with the ambidextrous entrepreneurial model? We know that there are 5 dimensions that Berrone, Luis Gomez-Mejia, and colleagues have theorized and found about social-emotional wealth. What I'm saying is that some of these dimensions may be more important than others when you consider the ambidextrous entrepreneurial model and therefore the galaxy perspective. Also, I think it's a very important question to ask: what are the distinctive trade-offs that guide an entrepreneurial family's decision making? Because we know, for instance, that after these different crises, there have been a number of new trade-offs, like the trade-off between health and wealth, the trade-off between life and livelihood. We know that the millennial generation tends to prioritize more and more society-centered things. They are very much oriented to have an impact on society. And so this means that besides family-centered and non-economic goals, you will start having society-centered and non-economic goals. And so, and we don't have much theorizing around that. Also, how do social-emotional wealth flows and stocks associated with the galaxy organization relate to those associated with the others organizations? So I would really be very eager to see how family business scholars might establish a theory at social-emotional wealth at the galaxy level. Also asking themselves how do the different social-emotional wealth dimensions interact with each other, how can family business owners resolve or manage the possible trade-off between them, etc., up to the question of how to pursue a family social impact strategy. So for instance, today, we live in a society where things like sustainability, ESG, social impact are becoming very important even across families. And how do a family achieve a family social impact strategy is still a question that has not a rigorous data-based answer. So, for instance, they can do through foundations, they can do without foundations, they can do in a different way. And I think, there is really very important room for exploring this further. Last, to conclude, I want to face the area of long-term orientation and resilience. What is the assumption here? The assumption that we have been having in our field is that family businesses are forward-looking with the intention to grow over generations. Indeed, many scholars have always been, criticizing sometimes those family firms that were incapable of growing. Now, what happens is that in this new world, you might actually be happy to not grow and even to not profit from some of the Galaxy organizations. So, for instance, very often the family office as a type of Galaxy organization stays very small. They are very small boutiques. The family do not want to grow. And so, again, even in this area, there are a number of questions for future research. So the question is, and also, another important point is that today, in the current very uncertain world, we know from research that even being backward oriented, even being oriented to respect and preserve the tradition, the history of the family becomes important because the more the current environment is uncertain, the more, if you are able to show to your stakeholders that you have strong family traditions, strong family values, historical values, these can be considered as a sort of compass that can help you to orient the different stakeholders. And so, question is, some possible questions are: what role does tradition play for family owners in times of crisis? How can a family leverage its tradition and its heritage in the Galaxy? For instance, in Italy, we have many families who are establishing family museums or family libraries, or have been conducting a study on a family called Daboca that has a very sophisticated historical archive. So, more generally, how the heritage, the tradition of a family and or a territory can be leveraged by family to prosper. Or also how